You know I try to be a good man, I always give it my best. But truth be told, someday I want to go to the wild, wild west.
And now, live from our Smokehouse studio, it's time for Real Estate Jerky. All your real estate questions answered by a provocatively lean expert host, Ed Parcaut, MBA, veteran, and president of Lending for Living. And today's special expert guest, real estate advice you won't find anywhere else. Plenty to chew on, starting now.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be here, and today we're going to have Bert Lippert. He is a building safety program coordinator as our guest, and I'm Ed Parcaut, your host. He is a candidate for the upcoming, I guess, the Mariel campaign that's coming up, right, Bert?
November.
Yep. Is that when it's coming up?
Yeah.
Now, we don't have to do anything in the primary ahead of time, right? For you,
No.
That's just the other runs, right? As you can tell, I'm really into the political scene. We're having a lot of the candidates come on so people understand who you are, and because we had I think Doug Ridenauer was on, and I got a lot of bad calls where people are going, "You gonna have anybody else on?" Of course, we asked everybody to come on, and it's just a matter of time to get people's schedules, be able to get them on, and so we're going to have more people coming on during the next couple months. So before we get into political stuff in Modesto, I want to remind our listeners why we do this show. Our number one goal here at Real Estate Jerky is to get our listeners on the path to home ownership. And if you're in your home already, we want to help you enjoy that home and understand your community. And that's why we do this show. So Bert, you're local, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Why don't you give us a little background about yourself?
All right. Well, I was
take as much time as you need.
yeah, I was born here and spent my whole life. Grew up, went to John Muir Elementary, La Loma Junior High School, Downey. My dad was an educator at the junior college, and so it was just understood that I'd go to the junior college before I left and went off to college. And then I went to up to McMinnville, Oregon, to Linfield College, and I graduated with a BS in history. Came back here and knew I didn't want to be in an office or be inside or locked up, so I started pounding nails and pouring concrete, and I did that and got a contractor's license just in time for the market to go bad in 1980. And so struggled, worked for various people, kind of made things, met my ends. And finally I went to work for the city in 1985. January 8th was my first day. I just celebrated my 35th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, started my 36th year, and I came to work for them as a building inspector. Promised them I wouldn't leave, because I used to kind of get angry and just tell people to hang it on their nose and leave. And so I promised them I'd stay for 5 years, and here I am, 35 years later.
Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, I love it. It was the greatest thing in the world for me because I didn't know what I was,
Right.
I thought I was. I since have found out I'm the way I'm wired is, I'm ADD and I'm probably on the spectrum of autism a little bit, and I can't sit still. I have to move, and I went to work for the city. It was the greatest job. They gave me a vehicle and gave me 15 to 20 stops a day, and I could go out and do inspections and make new friends and meet people and talk to them and then I could come back in, and it was just a wonderful place. Plus, in those days, they had.
You're talking the 80s or 90s?
Yeah, I'm talking in the 80s, and then.
Just so our listeners know what
period
of time you're talking
in
about.
the 80s, yeah, and early 90s we had. There was more money in the budget, and there was a lot of training, and the city used to put on really excellent training, and. I'm a better person because of that. I mean, it's stuff
Right.
But they would sit down in these seminars and bring these experts in, and they would talk about, how you view other people and overcoming your, stereotypes and things like that. And it made me a better person.
And so that was the 80s. And so during the 90s, same programs were there, or how was it? Because not everybody has been around Modesto forever who would understand this, but I understand that back in the 70s, we had Prop 13 that came in that affected some jobs in Modesto and certain counties, and so was there any challenges during the 90s or that you want to go over? Because we know we talked before the show about all the challenges from 2006 on.
Right.
So we'll bring that up.
Yeah. Well, when the stock market had its crash in '89, and then the housing boom slowed down, and it took about 5, 6, 7 years before it started to come back, and it was the late '90s before it built, and so that was the first time they had layoffs in the city, to cut back on the budget and everything, and that was all new. People didn't know how to do that, and then it started taking off again in the late '90s, and in the building, and then early 2000, up until 2007, it was just going gangbusters. We were building, 1,500 to 2,000 houses a year. Permits were being pulled, and we were doing inspections, and then of course it all crashed in 2008, and it crashed hard, and suddenly people had to, and the city had to really start to make drastic cuts, and at that time, people who had many years there, were offered retirement and a kind of a health umbrella,
Right.
that you could leave, and so people were just taking their retirements. But what happened was we lost a real institutional knowledge.
Right.
A lot of people left that knew how things had always gone, and there's always one person in a department or in a division that just knows the history and knows where that file is, and this is what we used to do, and this is how it used to work, and all of a sudden those people left. And then for 3 or 4 years there was a scramble. There were people coming in that were department heads and management that were there, just to help their career, and 3, 4 years and they were gone, and all this stuff was lost. And so we went into early 2010, 11, 12, and a lot of that was gone, and people didn't know what to do, and there were it's just nothing was passed on,
Right.
that history.
Now, in the building, in your department you work in is the building and safety, right?
Yeah, building safety. Yeah.
So what was some of your challenges during the last downturn? I mean, we were talking before the break about, foreclosures and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm sure our city's never seen that before, and, the department's going through that. But you were like a code enforcement? Is that what you do?
Yeah, in 2006 I had gone to work at the police department, and they were going to use the building codes as one of the tools to eliminate problem properties in the town where people had occupied them, squatter occupied, abandoned houses, fire damaged houses, and go ahead and use the codes to be able to condemn them, secure them, board them up, and in a lot of cases go ahead and demolish them and remove them.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that back then when you moved out of the house, like it was given back to the bank or they were going to foreclose on it, the moment you move out, your fire insurance only lasted 30 days.
Right.
They canceled those policies after 30 days, so a lot of people didn't realize that, and companies were coming after them for the damages and stuff like that.
Right, and I used to tell people, why are you moving out? They go, well, they're going to foreclose on me. I go, but it's going to take 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. Stay in here. You protect the property. But people would move out because they were being good citizens, thought that was what they were supposed to do. The house became abandoned, and then things would happen.
Right, and then you'd have to come out because weeds are getting high. There's other issues with the house. Right. That's
Right.
So basically, how long would it take somebody? Would they call into the city or the police department? How would the code enforcement know to go out?
Well, usually it comes from phone calls, emails, complaints to your council person or to the police department, and then cases get created, and we go out to do that. We had.
Well, we stop right there.
Okay.
We'll go to break. When we come back, we'll pick that
Yeah,
up. Okay.
all right, yeah.
Hey, we'll be right back with my guest, Bert Lippert. He is the Building Safety Program Coordinator for City of Modesto and candidate for the mayoral race coming up. If you have any questions or comments, dial pound 250, say the keyword real estate jerky. That's pound 250, key phrase real estate jerky. And leave us questions or comments, and we'll talk to you when we get back. All right, that's the first section now.
Oh.
That's the first section now.
All right.
Now the next one is 12 minutes, a little bit longer.
All right.
All right, so how does she have us coming back? Okay, it says in here where I'm going to bring us back. And I heard that you wanted to run for mayor quite some time ago. And then you talk about some story about your sons and you running for mayor.
Yeah. What it is I'd always told them.
I don't want to know.
Okay.
Keep it fresh.
All right.
You follow me?
All right. Yeah. All
Because
right.
what happened is, like, I usually have another person in here, an agent from another area or here, and they'll start talking, and then, no, this is perfect. We want this on
Yeah.
there. And then what happens right now, it goes to our Real Estate Jerky YouTube channel, and so it's behind the scenes right now. So whatever you say right now is still being recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
Real Estate Jerky is back on Power Talk 1360. Chew on that.
And we're back. And if you just started listening to us right now, I'm Ed Parcaut, mortgage advisor with Lending for Living, and your host. And I'm here with my guest, Bert Lippert. He is the Building Safety Program Coordinator for City of Modesto and candidate for Modesto Mayor. Now, Bert, I heard that you wanted to run for mayor a while back.
Yeah.
What year was that? Was that too much thrown in there?
No. It was always a plan of mine.
Okay, it was a plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was always a plan
That's it?
that I was gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's.
Is there a story behind there
Well,
about
there's-
your... I always get these notes from Marlene on my thing to ask
Right.
questions, and
No,
it says
I know.
something
I know.
about sons.
Well, what happened was a year ago from this last December, my oldest son, Matt, said, "What are you gonna run for mayor at the next time?" And I go, "Well, no, I'm still a worker. I was gonna wait till I retire." And he goes, "You're too old. You'll be dead by the time you leave the city." And because it's in another 2 years, and then you got 4 years after that. He goes, "You'll be too old." And I'd always said that it always strikes me as shame that older people hold office on the school board and on the city council and everything. They try to save things the way they have been and the way they know it, and there needs to be younger families involved, younger people, because it's their kids that are getting they're meeting their needs. And in the city, I'm not going to be here in 20 years, and these people out here are, and they need to plan for what kind of a city they want, and not have a bunch of older people doing it, but they're going to be stuck with me, so we're going to do it.
Well, the problem is, I think a lot of people, when they're younger, and they want to do this stuff, they don't have the time, they don't have the money, resources, that kind of stuff, and it takes some resources to run for certain political offices.
Oh, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And
And so a lot of people don't realize, that's why a lot of people say, well, I want to wait till I retire, I want to do this, but I'm glad you're running. We always need choices, right?
Right.
Now, the other candidates for mayor, right?
no. Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go into what you think. What's the biggest challenges Modesto faces over the next several years? What do you think? Because you go for mayor, so you got to have something you're thinking about.
That's right. That's right.
I know it's not new. I know
No,
you're thinking
no.
about it.
No.
Trying to be politically correct, right?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I may not be. I don't know.
And that's okay.
I've always fixed things, organized things. When I took over the code enforcement part of the building safety division, that's why they call me Building Safety Program Coordinator, is because we had a bunch of code sections in the city that applied to code enforcement, but they didn't work. And I'll liken it to a crossword. I mean, not a puzzle. You're going to put a puzzle together. You always have to have the box with the picture on it so you know how the pieces go. Well, we had all the pieces, but nobody had a picture of how code enforcement works. And so it took about a year and a half. There was Susanna Woods was the city attorney at that time, and Will Crew was the building official, and the three of us laid it all out and started the program. And became pretty effective. We were able to initiate going ahead and before Ed, if I wrote you a citation for $100, it would just go back into the general fund and it wouldn't come back. If I penalized you $100 a day in civil penalties, it would just go into the general fund. And we were able to create the fund that we're allowed to do and then build that up so that we could do other. So that way it's not a cost to the city when we paint over graffiti. It's not a cost to the city when we demolish a house or board it up. You know, this fund is self-funding and it's been built up, and we're able to use it effectively to fight blight in the city and nuisance conditions. So I've always been that. I ran the Little League program at Esso Baseball for Youth and set that up. I was PTA president. I've always been involved in these things and active in my church, and I just said, well, this is something I want to do. In fact, a year ago, last December, Doug Ridenour asked me, he goes, when are you going to run for the council? And I go, Doug, I'm just going to run for mayor. And he goes, all right, go for it. And and that's where we are. There's things that need to be changed down there. After 35 years, you just look at things that, first of all, I like just to see things get streamlined so that we're more efficient and we get things done. And
so right now is your time to talk about yourself, and because you're on the air and
right.
people know who you are, because
right.
not everybody will know who every candidate is.
No.
And we want to give them a platform.
Right.
So keep going, explain
okay.
why you want to be for mayor,
Well,
and all that good stuff.
First of all, there's the Modesto Municipal Code is set up, and there still isn't pictures for all of the pieces to make things work effectively. Usually they're cut and paste, they're taken in from other cities, do this kind of a program. We don't know if it works or not, but it comes in and we do that. Oftentimes, I'll give you an example. The sidewalk vendors, people that sell fruit and flowers on the side of the road, you see them standing there and people call in and say, hey, they can't do that. It's, they don't have a business license. Well, okay. We wrote so many citations to those people. We can't collect the money. They have no ID on them. And so finally, what in the ordinance, and it's a perfect ordinance, except the one thing that was there was we didn't require that they get a ag license from the county, which would require them to go to Sacramento and get a permit to do that. It's only $100 and $100. But then you're allowed to sell fruit or the roses or flowers or any of these roadside people that do that. And then if we go out there, the police department or somebody, they don't have their license, they don't have any of that, we're allowed to confiscate the product. Take it down to the police station or take it to City Hall. Then they can come and pick it up when they can provide proof. Well, if you do that a couple times, these people aren't going to drop people off on the corners to go ahead and stand there all day long and do that. And it's those kinds of things. And
so is that something that you say that needs to be changed?
Well, I think so. Yeah, and we've been working on it for a year now to get the people that sell phones and the itinerant vendors that are taking up those locations on the sidewalk and everything. In the last year, the state, before Governor Brown left, he initiated programs to allow people to sell products, to be small entrepreneurs. And it should be. People need to be able to start and not just stymied and hit with a bunch of red tape. But we still need to have that all in place. And the city still, after a year, hasn't gotten to that point yet where we can enforce anything and protect those people who are playing by the rules, protect those people who can't. And, the cannabis ordinance. The cannabis says you have to have 6 plants. It's, and you can have them indoors, nothing outdoors. But nothing was really set up on, gee, what happens if some guy's growing pot in the backyard, Well, yeah, it's against the law, but it's not against the state law, it's against the city law, and how do you enforce that? When you have limitations on how you can look over a fence and look into somebody's backyard, there's privacy rights. These kind of things, we don't think it all the way through. We go A and then we stop before we get to Z, and it looks good, and should be, and frankly, laws are usually created because somebody did something wrong. You know, it's not because you and I sat down and said, "Oh, we got to follow this all the way through," because we couldn't conceive that. But we need to do more of that. There's communication within the city. For instance, if you call in and make a complaint, but you don't know who to call, so you just shotgun it to 4 or 5 different phone numbers, send emails to council members and to the mayor, to the city manager's office, then suddenly there's just emails and phone going out all over the place. And you know, you spend 2 days, 3 days trying to answer that. And that when that happens, it takes time away from the day you were for the people that had, you know, that you were cases that you had to do. You suddenly had to go put a fire out. And then sometimes a week later, a council person will come back from vacation, check their emails and go, "Oh, what about this?" and fire it off again. It drives me crazy. I have to send an email back out to the whole city. Stop. We already took care of this. You know, I've gone up there before and suggested, gee, can we just have a centralized place where these come in so we can keep track of them? The mayor, council members, they have an awful lot of sway. If they were here in a meeting and they were talking and one of them said, "Gee, I wonder about this," as soon as the meeting was over, they'd fire off emails to get that answer to them. And we may not have the ability to get it. Everything stops till we get that information. And then you give it to the person and they go, "Oh, I wasn't really, I was just kind of talking out loud." And those kind of things. That's just, it can really slow down the process. And then the other thing too, Ed, is they always talk about transparency, and in my department and at my level, and you know, we're pretty transparent. We don't hide anything. We can't. People know business, you know, that they probably really shouldn't know, and it always seems to me that it stops on the higher level, higher up, and you know.
Hey, Bert, let's stop there. We gotta go to break, okay?
All right.
And we'll pick up when we get back.
I've got one, yeah.
As many of you know, I'm a veteran, and I believe in supporting other veteran business owners. So if you know a veteran business owner who would like the benefit of our audience and the home buyers and sellers and people we talk to, get them in touch with me by dialing pound 250, say the key phrase Real Estate Jerky, or call me direct at 209-846-9270. The shout out today is to Larry DeHart, owner of DeHart Roofing. You can reach Larry at 209-538-6423. Talk when we get back. All right, so the next one is 12.
Yeah, let's not let that happen again, all right?
All right, so sorry. All right, so so it sounds to me like, I mean, I've known this for years, but it seems like the city is just hard to get anything done. Everybody leaves the city and goes to the county.
Yeah.
Because the county supposedly works better than the city does.
Yeah.
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 Because I remember when I was doing the No Home or Left Behind, the county gave us a building, gave us everything so we could house it and have everybody come there, all the different lenders to do modifications and stuff like that. Go to the city, crickets.
Yeah.
Finally, somehow they got it, and we had this huge event at the plaza, and we had, I think we had 3,000 people show up
I
there.
remember that.
And there people were outside in line, all that. And I mean, at the time, we were getting 60% of the people modification to 70%. So we're doing pretty well, but then everything stopped. But it was like pulling teeth to get anything from the city, you know, to help us. And it's the people in the city that need it more than anything else.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you know, a lot of the city used to make a lot of loans, you know, for people to, you know, fix up their houses and stuff like that. And they'd go ahead and file a you know, deed of trust for the, you know, $10,000,
yeah.
and then mom and dad had died, and 20 years later, that's never been paid off, and you're going, wait.
All right, so this next segment, same thing, 12 minutes, okay?
Yeah, I don't know where, I forgot where I was, what I was talking.
Don't worry, I'll bring it back. Don't worry.
All right, I mean, I was gonna.
All right, go ahead, start.
Teddy.
Don't worry, I'll bring us back, and then you can think about it. No big deal.
leaving the bull behind. It's Real Estate Jerky.
And we're back. And if you're just tuning in, not turning in, you're going to bed now. Hey, I have Bert Lippert, the Building Safety Program Coordinator here with City of Modesto and candidate for Modesto Mayor, and I'm Ed Parcaut, your host. And we've been talking about his run for the future for the mayor and what he's thinking about. And during the break, we were talking about the city and other stuff. And when we left before break, you were talking about how the city things that should be changed in the city, right? Certain things. Mm-hmm. Did you want to keep going there, or is there something else that you want to look at? I got one question though. Since you work in code enforcement, when I came in today, I saw a lot of graffiti, more than I've seen in a while. Is it getting worse, or is it about the same? Did I just come there a different way today and saw it, and I didn't?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
we have we spend a lot of time getting all the homeowners and who let's say back up against Briggsmore to sign an agreement that we could come and just paint. The city comes and paints that and covers that up. We have a graffiti contractor that if we can't, what it is we're supposed to respond within 72 hours. So you would make contact to the people who own that and say, you got to get this painted over. And if they can't, then you can't make a victim a victim. So then we work with them as much as possible and get them to take care of it and give us permission to take care of it.
Yeah, this was on a building actually.
Right,
I
right.
think it was on Orangeburg.
Right. Yeah, a good example of that is we have requirements in when you build a building that they're supposed to put the non-graffiti sticking stuff in the stucco when they build a commercial building, but they don't.
Oh, is there stuff that can stop it?
Well,
I'm just curious.
They say it does, and does it? I don't know, but it's better than nothing. But yet we don't get them to do that. We don't make that a requirement, even though it's in our code. And that's another thing too, Ed. There's a lot of codes. Just because there's a code that says you can't do this, doesn't mean that we can enforce it or respond to it. And it's a lot of time spent sometimes responding to complaints because it's in our code when we really can't make it happen, and it becomes a problem. So
that's too bad.
There's other problems with the this happened this week. There's not enough employees to take care of, let's say, the trees. And I know we have outside contractors that do a lot of that. I had to demolish 3 trees at the end of September, beginning of October. I called the city, the forestry department, and I said, hey, can you guys cut these trees down? And the guy goes, no. He goes, I got 7,000 other properties ahead of you, Bert. You got to take care of those people. Well, they're not going to be able in this downtime of this season of trying to catch up, to be able to catch up with those. And a lot of your listeners know that you have a city tree and the roots are eating up the driveway, the sidewalk, the city sidewalk in front of it. It's chasing the sewer. Sometimes it'll actually get in the old drain line, the cast iron, and just pop it and chase it up inside the house and lifts up corners of the garage usually. And causes a significant amount of damage. Well, that's a city tree. You can't cut it down. You can't damage it.
Right.
And we get complaints from people saying, hey, my neighbor's cutting down the tree. Well, it's causing damage. I'd really like to see that, okay, yeah, that city tree's a problem. Here are the contractors that we have approved. If you want to go ahead and hire them and do it yourself, just if you have the resources to speed it up, then go ahead and do it. Because what happens is, if you can't come out, the city doesn't get out and respond to that tree, it falls over. Big branch comes down, hits your car, hits your house. It's an act of God. City steps back and says, we have no responsibility of that. And here you are as a homeowner going, but wait, you wouldn't let me do anything on this tree, and now you're telling me that you're not going to so what's the deal? And I had that happen this week where somebody called in and I was talking to him on the phone and So,
Yeah, I have that problem in our house. I mean, if you look on the older streets in Modesto, right, Brady, Insulin, any of those,
right.
there's huge trees and they have so much mistletoe in them. I mean, and that kills the tree after a while, right?
Right,
And
right.
I mean, I looked at some of these trees going, there's more mistletoe than leaves on these things. And if they kill all these trees, what are they going to do then, right?
Right.
So they're trying to save them, right? You can't work on them. They should just, I don't know what the answer is, but maybe give them back to the homeowners and have the homeowners take care of them.
Right.
You know, because like you said, I think when we had a ton of mistletoe in ours, and we went back and then we were able to get a contractor to come out and clean it out. But then again, a couple years later, you know, when the birds come with the berries that they've eaten and drop them out, you know, the way they do it, then you get mistletoe back in your tree, right?
Right. Well,
And it's throughout California. I mean, we have property up in Tuolumne County, and those old oaks have mistletoe in them also.
right. Right. And before we sold our house in our residential neighborhood, when the leaves would fall off, the neighbors and I'd go out there with ladders and I'd climb the trees and I'd cut all the mistletoe on the whole street. Because if I got it out of the house next door, then I didn't have to worry about it coming over on mine. And when the neighbors used to leave, I'd go over there and cut the roots that were going underneath the sidewalk and starting to destroy. I'd just go take care of it, and I did that for years and years, and I still do that.
I'll give you my address after the show.
If I don't have any things to do on Saturday or Sunday morning before church, and I got nervous energy, heck, I used to spray Roundup on the sidewalks downtown, and then I'd go and hoe the weeds and pull them all out and rake up the leaves. And before they had Dumo that blows them all in the street, you know, there's a lot of those streets that get pretty slick from the leaves. So I used to just go over there and clean all that stuff up and clean the gutters and everything like that, and just so it would be, you know, cleaner. So, and then I'm sure everybody wants to know, gee, what are you going to do about homelessness? Because that seems to be a problem.
Just a little bit of a problem, I think.
Well,
I think one of the problems that we have, though, with the homeless is people have to want to be helped, right?
there's a percentage of them that doesn't. Yeah.
A large percentage of them, I do know.
By the time the ones that are veterans and are suffering that way, there's a lot of veteran groups that are stepping up and helping those people, and that's diminishing. But there's 30% of the people on the street are mentally ill, and many of them, it's so funny, they won't take their medication because they don't want to. They don't like the way it feels, but then they'll go out on the street and they'll self-medicate with illegal drugs and alcohol, and because of their mental problems, they become victims to the people on the streets, and they get taken advantage of. They say there's about 20% of the people that even if you gave them the Taj Mahal wouldn't move into it. They'd rather sleep outside. So this is a problem. People say, well, what are you going to do? And the answer is, at our level, there's not a lot we can do. We don't have the kind of resources to be able to help them, really. The county and the city have worked. You know, we had the tent community, and that was, a lot of people came from all over California and looked at that, and it was really effective. But that was just a short term. They talk about housing. Housing is short term. What we're talking about is temporary housing of some sort, tough sheds, something like that, to get them off the street, get them into something like that. That's not long-term housing. That's short-term. It's stopgap. And we spend all of our resources on those kind of methods, cleaning up after them. When the tent city was done, there was 153 tons of garbage that had to be hauled away at around $60. You know, I mean, that's $9,000 that the city paid for that. That doesn't show up anywhere. Today, the police department's doing a sweep of all the shopping carts, and taking them away from the homeless people, you know, and giving them containers to put it in, but taking back the carts, saying, you know, this doesn't belong to you, and that isn't going to show up on any book, on any kind of an expense at the end of the year. So how much money do you spend? You know, City of San Francisco spends $33,000 a homeless person. There's 9,000 homeless people in San Francisco. If you times 9,000 or 33,000 times 9,000, you're over $200 million. And that's just stopgap methods. Governor Newsom just passed the, $1.2 billion for housing. Just provide the housing in Stanislaus County that we need. We would eat up all that money.
You're talking for short-term people? You mean
No,
for
no,
homeless?
this would be building housing, everywhere. And so that's really tough. As I said earlier, 1,500 to 1,000 homes a year. We were building in the early 2000s till the crash. We built less than 200 dwelling units last year and only less than 70 homes. And there's no, it used to be, you build 1,000 new homes, people would move in, and then it would drop down and it would cycle back down. And that hasn't happened.
No, during the downturn, the last year of the nationwide, we did 1.7 million, right? This last year, we only did 870-some thousand homes nationwide, which is not enough to even get caught up. We need the normal 1.5-ish or whatever that number is to just keep with the population growth each year, not to get caught up. And that's why our property values are still going up 10% in Modesto, and then it's harder for people to afford. I need to, we'll pick this up when I get back. I got to break.
Right.
All right, so it's time to go to break. Remember, we live stream the show on Saturdays 12 noon and Sundays at 10. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're live. All right, so remember, we live stream our shows Sunday 10 a.m. and also we have it on podcast at iHeartMedia.com, and you can also watch us behind the scenes at YouTube video anytime, and it's a great opportunity to hear extended conversations. So we'll talk to you when we get right back. Can you clean that up for me? All right, we got 9 minutes left.
Wow, that's not enough. We've got to keep talking about it. They had an article to be today about how the rents have increased so much from the last year.
No, it's everywhere. I mean, I do a lot in Tuolumne County because I bought up there a cabin 6 years ago, and I just started working up there because the agents were like, "What? You can close in 2 weeks?" And because I don't have this on, but the problem up there, a lot of people just do 1 or 2 deals because they like in the retirement mode up there, right? Loan officers, different down here. So I'm slammed. I'm doing probably 65% of my business up there right now, and we just bought 32 acres. And what I'm getting at is, they had the problem with the fire insurance. However, it's just allowing people to buy now that weren't able to buy before because they dropped these people who've had homes for 20 and 30 years. Then they're like, their second homes, they're like, we're done. We were only paying $600 a year for insurance, and now it's $3,000.
Right.
We're done. Let's just sell it. And they're dropping it $40,000, $50,000. Now I got people able to buy it, even at the higher insurance, which is not going to go higher. It's just going to eventually, we'll come back down. We've been through this before. So. Yeah, it's. I was trying to get at there. I had one person who was going from $1,600 a month of their rent to almost $19,000.
Yeah.
They will buy $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I owned a house in Charleston, South Carolina, and the flood insurance, though it wasn't great, you can't get that anymore because everybody just stepped back.
Well, I remember when I was during the downturn, I went to Florida to help out people do the modification there, like I did here, and these people were their mortgage and house insurance were the same.
Yeah.
$900 for a house and $900 for their insurance.
Right. Yeah. FEMA didn't do anybody any good back there.
Are you ready for the last 9 minutes? Is that what I have, 9 minutes?
Yeah, a little over 9 and 20 seconds.
Yeah, so I'll just do what I can. So when we get to the end, I'll just say thank you so much, and I'll get off the mic. Okay.
Go like this, and I'll write it down.
I'll let you know like this. And I'll let you know
no.
like this. And when I'll let you know.
Leaving the bull behind. It's Real Estate Jerky.
That's right. We're back for our final segment of the show. I'm Ed Parcaut, your host, and I'm here with Bert Lippert. He is the Building Safety Program Coordinator for City of Modesto, and he is running for Modesto Mayor. So we talked a lot in this short time I've had you here. What do you want to go over that we haven't covered? I mean, before break, we were talking about how we just haven't built enough homes and how we're having problems with rents going up, how values are going to continue to rise because of the fact that we haven't built any homes. And I've had people, you probably haven't listened to the show, and no offense, I understand, but on a podcast, we've had people come in and talk about home building that's going on, like in Riverbank and Oakdale, and there are only a few hundred homes being built right now, both those areas. We need thousands of homes to be built. Do you see anything in the future where, with the City of Modesto that can help with fees and other things to help builders come in? I know they've done some things at the city to help out, but do you see anything there?
Well,
because I know everything, you want to fix everything, I can see it.
right. Well, that's a good question. I myself am leery about when government gets involved in building, because then that's federal money coming in, and oftentimes, and then that it just changes the way things are, and the price goes up. The private sector can build it a lot
Well, I wasn't
cheaper.
looking for a building for the home, for the
No,
government.
I know,
Yeah.
but I mean, cutting the rates and doing all that,
Okay, fees,
fees and everything like that. Yeah.
And I think one of the other problems is how long it takes to go from thinking about the project to ready to shovel the dirt. Is years and years.
Right, and that's a long process.
Right.
And a lot can happen. You can start that and everything's going good, and somewhere in there it goes the other way, and you see a lot of these. There hasn't been any development in Modesto. The subdivisions are the subdivisions that other people had put in when the market went bad.
Right, the leftover pieces.
Right,
Yeah.
and when we left, I wanted to say one more thing. Like Section 8 right now, there's 8,000 families, individuals, waiting on the list to be able to get into a livable dwelling unit.
A Section 8 home?
Yeah,
Really?
Section 8,
Wow.
8,000. So, I mean, how do you do that? I read some articles on homelessness, comparing down at Fresno. People say, well, it's cheaper to build down here. They were talking to developers in Fresno, and they were saying, yeah, it's 90%, 10% cheaper. And yes, the land is cheaper, but the rents are a third of what they are in the Bay Area. So if we're going to invest our money in low-income housing, we're going to go up and do it in the Bay Area, where the rents will come in, or the money to pay for it, and we'll have good cash flow, as opposed to down here.
Yeah,
And,
affordable housing in the Bay Area is $120,000 a year of income.
Right. Yeah, you don't. And the people here in Modesto, it's in Stanislaus County, but we'll just say Modesto. If you're working minimum wage, you and your spouse, one of you has to work part-time, 20 hours a week, just to be able to afford a rentable unit here in the city, if you can get it. Another example is when we demolished 624 9th Street. There were 26 dwelling units in there, 26 habitable spaces, 400 square feet, not much bigger than, a little bit bigger than this place.
He's talking about the studio, by the way.
The studio, yeah. And 98 people were evicted from that place when we demolished it. There were only 52 that were on the books. The other 46 were living in there. They were family members or other relatives or friends, and they were, couch surfing. And then you'd go into a 400 square foot place, and there'd be 5 adults in there. And there'd be 3 chihuahuas, 2 other small dogs, and a pit bull. And the water didn't work. The toilet didn't flush. It was, windows had to be nailed shut because you didn't want somebody breaking in. There's so many people like that in this town, where you have 3, 4, 5 families living in one house just to pay the bills and just to make it work. And that's something that we need to do as a city, is to protect people from falling off. The article in the paper today about the rents going up. People on a fixed income, especially elderly people who are only making so much money, they can't afford their utilities and their food, and then they fall off. and then they become homeless, and then it becomes even more expensive to be able to help them and get them back into something. It's cheaper in the long run to go ahead and help them stay where they are than to lose them completely and then try to bring them back. When it comes to the homelessness, the city is good at it, and the county works, and the city good at this. We need to make sure that those who need help and want help, it's available to them, and that we can help them and restore them back to, you know, citizenship and working and living someplace, as opposed to being on the streets. And there were people in the tent city who would get up in the morning, get in their car, and drive to a job. You know, that's hard to get people back into someplace to live. So.
All right, so we went over the homelessness issue, and we have about 2.5 minutes left. And what do you want to visit during that period of time? This is your time. Anything you want to re-look at, or
well,
will we forget?
The city can't do everything for everyone, you know.
Nor do we want them to.
Well, and we're not supposed to, and yet we have taken on that responsibility of we have a shopping cart problem. They're doing the sweep today, picking up all the shopping carts that are just laying on the side of the road. And there's companies who pick that up, but there's a lot of businesses, and you know, that's a business responsibility. It shouldn't be the responsibility of the city to go pick it up and then notify the people so they can come and pick up their cart. You know, just an awful lot of time is spent to that.
Yeah, and it used to be where, I mean, if you took that, they took it back from them, they were arresting them, but I heard that, you know, California passed a law where if they steal anything under $950, they can't be arrested.
Well, even if you did, they would be out in less than 2 hours and back on the street. You know, it ends up being a misdemeanor, and you haul them down, and so there's no place to put them anymore. So, you know, if you really arrest somebody, you take them down, you know, on Crow's Landing, you get them in and everything like that. All they do is get back out, and they walk, and they're back in their location where they feel most comfortable, and they're back there. And what do? You know, I mean, we have more important things to do for the police department to, you know, fight real crime and do those things. But at the same time, these issues are real important too. But so it's a dollar drain.
Right. I mean, because they call them lifestyle crimes or whatever, like, or I forget exactly, something like that. Where I mean, and I think it's still important to, you know, as a community to, you know, the small things are important to keep our place. You know, the graffiti makes a place look bad, right? We need to step that up. I know you guys do a lot, but I mean, just little things that we all can do to help out. But it just amazed me what that, you know, people are running into stores, stealing stuff now, running out, and you can't do anything because it's under $950.
Right.
It's not worth the time of the police department because it's a waste of their time to go through. So, you know, Bert, I really appreciate you coming in today and talking about your run for mayor and what you think the city should do and how you would see the difference there.
All right. Well, no, I thought it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you, Ed, for inviting me.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.